Do you know why we actually have the problem that we do in Egypt? Is because President Barack Obama is a fan of the Muslim Brotherhood. Period. End of story. It is true. This administration has admitted to meetings, hundreds of meetings, with jihad-linked groups. President Barack Obama's deputies are holding hundreds of closed-door meetings with the jihad-linked lobbying group that is widely derided by critics as an arm of the theocratic Muslim Brotherhood. The admission of meetings with the Council of American Islamic Relations came from George Salim, the White House new director for community partnership. George Salim is the White House's deputy director of the community partnerships. That sounds good, doesn't it? Hundreds of examples of departments and agencies meet with CARE on a range of issues. CARE is the group with the worst record of deception and the deepest ties to terrorism. We have a history of being way too soft on Islamic extremism. Do you know why the first Quran was printed in America in English? The first Quran, I own a copy of it, printed by Thomas Jefferson. It was printed as a warning. What are they doing? They're saying you have to pay a fee to not believe. If you don't pay a fee, well, then we have to execute you. But if you want to be a non-believer of Muhammad, you're going to have to pay an extra non-believer tax. Well, that ended up with piracy. They would come on the ships, the Muslim pirates, the Barbary pirates, and would just take things. Thomas Jefferson didn't understand why. He got a copy of the Quran, read it. Every American must read and understand this. At the time, 75% of our federal budget was going to bribes to the Barbary pirates. 75% of the U.S. budget was being paid in tributes and bribes to the Muslims. This is why we had our first foreign war. As much as anybody likes to love Ron Paul, tell me how Thomas Jefferson he is, when our first foreign war was started by Thomas Jefferson to stop the Muslim extremists. We now have a president who is in bed with Muslim extremists. The Muslim Brotherhood seems to be a problem, but for everybody but this administration and Eric Holder. The Holy Land Foundation, which we outline in Cowards, is so important. It's the name that far too many Americans are just not familiar with. The case concluded with 5 defendants being convicted of all 108 counts, all counts of raising funds in America to support Hamas under the guise of charity. The trial resulted in a list of unindicted co-conspirators that numbered over 250 people and organizations, meaning that there was evidence against them. The CARE actually went to the judge and said, hey, you got to take us off this. And the judge just laughed at him and said, are you kidding me? Have you seen the evidence? Why is this administration still doing business? Why is our media still in bed with CARE, an unindicted co-conspirator? Here's a web of the networks all laid out by our government, many of which are tied right to the Muslim Brotherhood, and we do nothing. Islamic organizations in America listed as unindicted co-conspirator: the Council of American Islamic Relations, CARE, the Islamic Society of North America, ISNA, 2 of the largest American Muslim organizations right at the top of the list, and these people are meeting with the president and are involved with our policy every step of the way. No mainstream critique. And you have to remember, all of this in spite of the fact that in 2009, the director of the FBI specifically outlined in a letter to Senator John Kyle that the FBI has now suspended all formal contacts between CARE and the FBI because of their connection to Hamas, and yet they still work with the administration.